I'm Jim Check. You're watching Now Media with me, Ian Burns, managing editor in our nation's capital. Here in Kelowna, blue skies with a little bit of smoke haze there. How are things looking in the nation's capital?
Uh, some nice fluffy clouds, but there's patches of blue as well. I think it's sort of about 18 degrees, so could be worse.
Well, welcome back to the work week. And here we go. Liberals in damage control mode. And the Liberals love government-funded media. We got lots on that. Do you have a right to defend your home? Carney defends the temporary foreign workers program while Canadians go jobless. And so is climate still number one for the Liberals? And BC businesses mired in crime crisis. All that and a whole lot more on the really big show. We're going to kick it off, though. You did this story, multiple interviews, deep story. Nobody does Bill C-18 like we do here in Canada. Small regional outlet that does more work on Bill C-18 than likely all the other big outlets combined. I mean, that's a big question. Why is that? But let's play this clip here because we actually got to talk to Mark Carney when he was here in West Kelowna, or Kelowna, some people call it. And we asked about Bill C-18.
Good morning, Steve McNall from Kelowna Now. It was referenced here earlier today, the Peachland wildfire.
Yeah.
And it brought crystal clear again to local media how we disseminate information quickly and effectively. Bill C-18 stands in our way to get back onto Facebook and Instagram. Are the Liberals looking for an alternative or rescinding that so that we can get that news back on those important platforms?
I'll say this, Steve. Thank you for the question. First thing, and one of the things that we have done, and I'll answer your specific question, but let me make a point on something we have done, which is, and you may not like this part of the answer, but I'm going to give it to you, which is that one of the roles of CBC Radio Canada is to provide unbiased, immediate, local information, particularly in terms of in situations such as you're referring to. And that's one of the reasons why we've made the commitment to invest and reinforce and actually change the governance of CBC Radio Can to ensure that they are providing those essential services. Now, to your specific question, I personally, and this government is a big believer in the value of what you do. I'm going to use you as a representation on local news, and the importance of ensuring that that is disseminated as widely and as quickly as possible. So we will look for all avenues to do that. And I understand your question, and it's part of our thinking around that. Thank you.
Do you feel respected and treated well?
Well, the idea that seems to be lodged in his head and the heads of many very powerful people in the Liberal Party and in this country is that CBC is adequate. Just CBC, that's fine. And I think, that's not just an insult to journalists that don't work for the CBC. That's also an insult just to anybody that believes in pluralism, anybody that believes in living in a civilized country. That is I don't think that, and this is the problem with C-18. I feel like it's focused too much on this profession, which people despise by and large. It's a completely hated profession, isn't it? But I think that the real story is the whole of this country. It's the whole of society. You can't get, this is what I mean, you can't really get a bigger story than this. This is the democracy that people always talking about the cause of democracy in this country and how they want to defend it. This is it. If you're interested in democracy, but beyond democracy, which is quite a vague term, if you're interested in a healthy society, if you're interested in a civilized society, you should be interested in this. You should want a free media and a diverse media.
You interviewed quite a few people, as did I. I interviewed the Matt Hatfield from Open Media, and he said that this is a real threat to democracy. And that you need a diversity of voices and not one singular voice, which is what seems like the Liberals want, is have that one singular voice in Canada. And they called it unbiased. I mean, you'd have to be, I don't know, who could actually call it unbiased?
I even spotted that Angus Bridgman, who's the guy in charge of that collaboration between McGill University and Toronto University that looks at the health of media in Canada. When I spoke to him, I didn't include it in the interview, But I said to him, I asked him right off the bat, I said, are you a journalist, or do you have a sort of history in journalism yourself? And he said, no, just a professor, just academic. And I said, okay, well, that's good in a way, because that means that you don't have that kind of emotional attachment to this issue that a lot of journalists do. Therefore, maybe you'll be a bit more neutral. And then we had a brief conversation where he was saying, there's not really such a thing as neutrality. There's no such thing as like, and this is something that you'll hear a lot in philosophical circles and like in academia. You can't really be unbiased in anything in your life. It's not really possible to do that. So, I mean, if this wasn't such a long article already, I might have included that in the story, but it's just interesting, isn't it, to note that there's an academic who studies this kind of thing, studies democracy, studies what makes democracies work. And one of the first things he said to me is, yeah, it's not really possible to be unbiased. And yet we still have this ludicrous idea coming out of the mouth of our own prime minister that the CBC is unbiased, that it doesn't carry any kind of prejudices, or it doesn't have a certain worldview embedded in its stories. Again, talk about being insulted. That's an insult. When the prime minister says that to you, he's insulting you. And I just wish more people would prick their ears at that.
Yeah, Matt Hatfield said that media in Canada is very weak, and it's been weakened by Bill C-18. It's crippled, actually. Close to 100 outlets have failed. Even Bell Media laid off 4,800 employees, citing Bill C-18. Yet, the solution there is just to continue to give CBC more money. And Matt goes on to say, certainly many people feel the CBC should not be the only solution to local news. We need a diversity of viewpoints in local communities. And if we look at what happens in this local community, they do very few stories in the local community, CBC. Like, they have really nothing going on in these small communities. We do. And he also goes on to say, we cannot be a one outlet country. And it seems to be that's what the Liberals want. That's what the Liberals seem to want. A one outlet country that very much favors the Liberal Party, because one, the opposition party wants to defund them, and then this party wants to give them more money. So, I mean, it's just natural that they would be biased, but they've been biased prior to that. But now they basically are in lockstep with each other. And we're going to show you some proof later. I want you to keep this in mind, though. Is this for the rest of the show? Keep that in mind.
What's that? I'd say they're already favourable to the CBC naturally, just because of who they are, the schools they went to, the places that they live in Canada. Of course, they're already basically Liberals as it is, and I'm talking about the staff at the CBC here. But not that's a bit vague. That's a bit hard to kind of qualify and fully understand. But on top of that, you've added, okay, it's in my material self-interest for the Liberal Party to win as a journalist at the CBC. I mean, that's a new dimension where it's like, okay, I really have to make this story biased in favour of the Liberals because I want to pay my mortgage next month. So here we go.
Yeah. You have to go read this story on Kelowna now. It is long. You interviewed quite a few people, as I did as well. Michael Geist is in there too. He's one of the experts, because CP did a couple stories. We talked about them earlier, where they basically interviewed an academic that was really pumping the Liberal tires, and nowhere near an expert. We actually interviewed real experts, and the outcome of the story is a lot different than what Canadian press was pushing out there. Like I said, go read that. If you think democracy is important in Canada, then go read that story and share your comments. I did post it on my LinkedIn as well. It's probably one of the best stories on Bill C-18. And if you go to the bottom of the story, you're going to find probably, I don't know, 15, 20 links to the other stories we've done. And then plus there's more. You'll find links in those stories. We've done so much work on Bill C-18. And even a Liberal MP is in the story. They're saying that it needs to end. And you've talked to some Liberal MPs that say it needs to end, yet it continues.
Yeah, well, not just that, but when you showed that video, that very Liberal MP, Stephen Fuhr, who's also a member of the government, he's not just a mere MP, that's who we're talking about. He was standing there next to Mark Carney, and he said that, whereas Mark Carney, I mean, they're on a different page. But yeah, I spoke to another former minister, Jenna Sudds, and she said to me that, yeah, there's a division. It's basically, I think she said something like it's about 50-50 within the party itself. So there are dozens and dozens of Liberal MPs who don't like this law and want rid of it if she's to be believed. And it's not just her who said that.
Keep this in mind for the rest of the show. We're going to show you some obvious biases. We're going to show you some biases that have been leading this country and also influencing this election. Because we look at who watches CBC, who still watches CBC, it'd be the boomers. Who turned this election? The boomers. Well, let's just keep going here. We're going to talk about crime a little bit here. RCMP paid nearly $1 million in settlements related to injuries caused by police dogs. And that's from 2013 to 2024. There is a big move out there to get rid of police dogs. I remember I was invited out and did photos for a couple of the sessions that were held here. They had the police dog training sessions here in Kelowna. And then I went to a farm once where they were training them. And, you know, there's a real move out there to end the police dogs because they're very effective.
Scary as well, aren't they? You wouldn't want to be chased by one of them.
And then we see, and this is, I didn't put the clip in here, but the city of Hamilton orders a resident to take down his security cameras from his home. He's got like 6 or 7 security cameras up in his home there. And then this outlet here interviews him and says that the city of Hamilton says they have to take down the security cameras because it actually records the street traffic.
It's like a privacy violation, isn't it? That's their argument. And it's city property, I think. They even went as far as to say it's pointed at city property. You can only record your property. I mean, you probably would be able to express more eloquently how frustrating that is. But when I saw that report,
yeah, they're obviously wrong because you're
bureaucrats was already pretty low.
You're allowed to record in public. Only one person has to give authorization to record in public. I know the city can do bylaws, but I guarantee the city facilities have cameras that record the street, and I can guarantee every Tesla that's driving around on the roads is recording everything. Like a Tesla, I mean, police love Teslas. As soon as they see a Tesla or on an accident, they actually, in some cases, have seized the car because they know it contains footage.
But I mean, increasingly though nowadays, people are driving around on, dare I say it, city property with dash cam. Yeah, like, I mean, you can get them for like $50, $60 or something like that off Amazon. Like loads of people have them. Every Uber driver these days, yeah. So are they all violating this law as well? It's obviously, I mean, it's selective, isn't it? It's a selective application of the law to punish completely innocent, law-abiding, responsible citizens, while the true lawbreakers are to be pitied and empathized with. I mean, this is what people mean when they say anarcho-tyranny. Like, I tried to talk about this before. That's what that concept means. Basically, this news story.
Well, they're making fun of us all around the world again, and it was on Fox. Greg Gutfeld was making fun of Canada and what you have to do because they do have the castle law down there. Kevin Sorbo even took to X and said this: a man was executed in front of his family during a home invasion. A 3-year-old girl was raped by an intruder. Canadian Police Chief Jim McSween told the citizens your best defense is to comply. We also have that very viral clip where the Toronto police told you to leave your keys at the front door so when people break in that they can just grab the keys without coming further into your home and waking you up. And then so
put a nice glass of milk there and some cookies as well.
So I put this on X here, and I said, as instructed by the police, I've left my key fobs at the front door. They are attached to my 2 dogs. Go ahead and see what happens. Please feed them. I mean, what are you supposed to do, right? I remember
right off the bat, I'd say, Jim, you would violate the bylaw on dog collars. There might even be a criminal investigation for that spiky collar.
There was a time when most, especially in the old English country, most manors had dogs there, wolfhounds even, that guarded the manor. And during COVID, a lot of people got themselves a small fluffy pet. But I can guarantee you, and what's going on in Canada right now, that these dogs may be in short supply soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that people are freaking out, though, is it? I mean, you can't obtain anything really to defend yourself either. Like you have to go through quite a lot of scrutiny just to buy bear spray. At least in Ontario, I'm not sure.
You're not allowed to use it. You're not allowed to use it on anybody.
And you're not allowed to use it. Yeah, can't use it on anything but a bear.
And then, well, even the bear might complain. But then I saw some people putting out there getting wasp spray and all kinds of different things. Well, I mean, I just put the key fobs on your 2 pets there, and they can take them off. Brian Lilly,
but I mean, how long is it until dogs, certain breeds of dog are banned, or maybe
Well, they already
some
do.
sort of bylaws put in place, or something that makes it your responsibility,
They grind their
even if
teeth
it's an
down.
intruder.
Grind their teeth
Yeah,
down so they
grind
can
teeth
only gum
down.
you.
Gum shield.
Brian Lilly from the Toronto Star puts out, says, let's end the debate around castle law. He said it already exists. And he goes back to an old English law here, and he says it exists, but you'd have to test it through the courts. It's the old English law, and I think it was written in 1600 or something. House of everyone is of him and his castle and fortress as well for the defense against injury and violence. If the thieves come to a man's house to rob him or murder, and the owner or his servants kill any of the thieves in defense of his house, it's no felony, and he shall lose nothing. So that's apparently a Canadian law and common law, but I don't know. They get charged.
Well, this is what I mean when I talk about things like the Bill of Rights. This fella here, Edward Cook, even though his name looks like it's Cork, but for some reason, as is typical in England, it's pronounced Cook. Like, he's a big sort of figure in the creation of the Bill of Rights, the English one, and English rights, and that kind of trying to make it into a formal system of rights and laws, which the Americans then perfected, some say, with their constitution. Canada is also, a descendant of that. They also inherit that. But the problem with this kind of thing is, obviously, if you write a new law, it supersedes these old laws. So it's about the latest law, really, and the latest law is not quite as clear as Edward Cook.
And then the temporary foreign workers program is getting a lot of play out there, and this is Mark Carney, in 2013, I believe, said that this is just a way to gut, Canadian wages, and that nobody should be getting cheap foreign labor. Yet here it is, and Mark Carney said that's the second most important thing Canadians want right now is cheap foreign labor. And then there's a rumor out there. I don't know, like it's somebody said it's a breaking news that some of these places, like they see all these, like fast food joints paying $36, $40 an hour. They're saying that those people have to buy those jobs for $36,000, $40,000, and then those people are actually only after that only getting about $5 an hour and getting abused, and then the company gets the write-off. So I mean, we'll keep following that story, but it doesn't make sense. Why is Tim Hortons and them paying $36, $40 an hour for somebody to work at Tim Hortons when they don't pay Canadians that much money?
Indeed.
This is a story that it's been out there too. This is his dad lost a job. The kid's 16 years old, and he's asking for advice how to get a job. He can't get a job. This is from Table Saw. It gets a lot of action on X there. This kid got 200 rejections, and yet we seem to need foreign workers. Doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, it really doesn't. I mean, there's obviously something very, very fishy going on, isn't there?
And then David Eby actually came out in support of Pierre Poilievre. I don't know if he said it, Pierre Poilievre, but he said that our system right now is a race to the bottom. It hurts our young people, it rewards bad actors, and pits people against each other. And he wants the end or the rethinking of the temporary foreign workers program. It is hurting British Columbians. It is hurting Canadians everywhere.
But did you read the Canadian Press story, which was a couple of interviews with partisans whose careers depend upon mass immigration? Who came out and said, this is a terrible idea. All they're doing is scapegoating the immigrants and being very nasty to immigrants. That's not good. That. Even though Pierre Poilievre, David Eby, nobody has said anything bad about the immigrants themselves. It's the system, not the immigrants. Nobody said anything bad about the actual people.
Even Carney said it in 2013. Even Trudeau said it at the end.
And that's what any economist, I mean, even an economist like in the first year of an undergraduate degree, for God's sake, would be able to say that. This is not like, it's not complicated economics, this, is it?
But so they call you. So the big news, though, the really big news is the reversal of that EV mandate, which we knew was coming. We were calling for, like, how are they going to do it? Like, that's the question. How are they going to do it? How are they going to walk it back? And this Holly Dolan reversal comes 3 months after the government of Canada boasted that it was the head of the pack on climate change. And Commons last June 17th by 194 to 141 rejected Conservative motion to repeal the EV mandate. That was a Conservative motion again. Another feather for Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps getting these wins, but he needs to translate it into popularity, doesn't he? That's the thing. He needs to translate it to what he used to have, like a 20-point lead in the polls and things like that.
Well, listen to the comments back then, like when they rejected Poilievre's motion there, it said it's all about everybody's children. Canada is uniquely placed to be the head of the pack. This is about climate leadership. This is about the future. This is about my children, my grandchildren, everybody's children. The reality is that Canadians sent a message during the last election rejecting the type of rhetoric the Conservatives are putting forward. Clearly, this has not sunk in yet because Conservatives continue to import American-style rhetoric opposing zero-emission vehicles. And here we go. Ready? Nice. And then they, well, let's just get a little clip from our friend here. The Hall of Famer fool of the day, Justin Trudeau, explaining why this was so important. Let's just play this clip from A Blast from the Past. I love the haircut, too.
Listen, Canada is one of the top 3 oil and gas producing countries in the world. But if we can demonstrate, as we are, that we can go greener, faster than many other countries. We're one of the few countries that actually brought in a price on pollution right across the country, and that had 2 elections where that price on pollution was upheld. That's a clear indication that Canadians understand that it's not just important for the air, for the water, for future generations. It's important for our bottom line. It's important for food on our table. It's important for our economic growth, to be innovative and leading the world on this. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what we're so excited about working with the partners around the country on. And it just boggles my mind that the Conservatives are having a debate over their leadership right now, and they're still arguing about whether or not we need to move forward on the fight against climate change. There's very few people in this country who still think that you can have a plan for the economy without having a plan for the environment. And most of those people seem to be running for the Conservative leadership.
That just feels like 5 minutes ago, doesn't it? That he was there talking that kind of codswallop. But he's gone, and ideas like that are also gone, aren't they? Which is
they walked it back,
a consequence of material reality.
Mark Carney kind of just said he's pausing it, and then we've seen some kerfuffle over that even the Liberal caucus is splintering and setting up a environmental group inside the Liberal caucus to kind of like question Mark Carney. But here's Melanie Joly being questioned by Vasi Kapelas of CTV on their backtracking of the EV mandate. And listen to the the intellect of Melanie Joly explain it to Canadians.
I do just want to make sure that I understand on behalf of Canadians, though, when you talk about how those mandates are part of a climate plan. The Prime Minister left open the door today outside of the industrial carbon price to, it sounded to me that was the only thing he was unequivocal about, would stick around as part of the climate policy. He opened the door to other changes to climate policy. Can you be unequivocal with Canadians watching right now? Will you maintain the targets that the previous Trudeau government had, the emissions reductions targets that are in place?
Well, the emission reduction tariffs for 2050 of being net zero by 2050, clearly.
But there are ones for 2030, 2035 as well. Will those also?
And I'm convinced the Minister of the Environment, which I'm convinced will make her available to answer your question, could be there to go much more into the specific details. What I can tell you, though, is that you've seen the jobs numbers this morning. This is the reality in which Canadians watching us right now are living in. There is unpredictability, which drives a lot of pause by industry leaders, by business owners, to make investments in their own companies, to hire people, to develop new products. And so while all this is happening, we have to use the government's role is to make sure that we indeed buy more Canadian, that we indeed have a defense industrial strategy, that we use the strength of procurement to really offer contracts rather than subsidies to companies in order for them to be able to predict what they can do within their own business for the next 3 to 5 years, sometimes 10 years. And then they can invest, they can hire, they can grow their footprint, and then they can have more suppliers, and their suppliers, other small and medium-sized companies, can then do the same thing. And that's how we'll create growth. Because at the end of the day, there are things we can't control. We can't control geopolitics, Vashi. Nobody will think that the government can do that. But what we can control is to build a stronger domestic market, is to use the power of buying Canadian, is to make sure that also we're investing in major national projects, and we'll be coming up with a list across the country very soon, and that also we're building our armed forces using the great industries we have in the country.
And I understand the significance of all of that, but will it be done at the expense of a climate policy? There are a lot of people who voted for your party thinking that it would remain stringent on reducing emissions. I know that you're not the Minister of Environment, but you spent 10 years, essentially around a cabinet table telling Canadians that the environment and the economy go hand in hand, and now you're telling them something very different. Will your government maintain targets outside of 2050?
I'm saying that the same thing, because I really think that the environment and the economy go hand in hand. Why? Because I think that what we've done in the past to really invest more in our clean tech is giving us a competitive advantage.
Because she goes around in circles again, and then Vassy says, "You're not answering the question. You're not answering the question." And then she goes around in circles again, and Vassy says, "I'm going to move on. I'll ask the Environment Minister," because she does not want to answer the question.
Painful. But then this is what happens when you get a new master who gives you a different script. And that's exactly what happened, really, isn't it? She's been given new instructions. And it's ironic that the master who's dished out this new script has also got a new script himself, because he used to be very much gung-ho on all of this climate stuff, just like a more sort of erudite version of Justin Trudeau on this question. So it's awkward. It's awkward for the Liberal Party, because they're doing this to survive. They're not doing this because they want to do it. They're doing it because they want to survive as a political party and as a government. And they know that their survival is based on Canadians feeling like, that they're doing okay in terms of their finances. And right now that's not happening. And it's in part because of these ridiculous emissions, targets and all the rest of it. But I just found it so funny when she said, we recognize that we can't change the world, or something. She said something about geopolitics. Like, there's only so much that we can do to change the world, or something like that. It's like, why don't you apply that logic to emissions in general? Like, what is the point? Will you explain to us what the point is of Canadians being punished at all in any way to bring down CO2 emissions when it has no effect on the planet? If there's only so much you can do in the world of geopolitics, why don't you just admit the corollary, which is that there's only so much we can do about the climate, namely nothing?
So Vassy Kafala stays on it, though, which is, you can look at her face during that whole thing. She's just like, why don't you answer the question? But here's Rosemary Barton. She's got her new show, too. She asked, we're in a climate emergency, and what's going on? So listen to the difference here.
The auto sector is under extreme pressure. Obviously, that's what you're dealing with. But climate is also under extreme pressure. And I wonder what the move to review this policy says about the government's commitment to climate change.
Well, the Minister of the Environment, Julie DeBruson, is working on a new climate competitiveness strategy. We believe that it is for us in our interest, not only, of course, to fight climate change, which is obvious, but also to reap the benefits of an industrial strategy linked to being able to be in clean tech. When you look at the companies that are worldwide leaders in clean tech, many of them are Canadians. Actually, we're in the top 100, and we want to build them even more, and that's why our climate policy, particularly our pricing, our industrial carbon pricing is really, really important to make sure that these companies continue to be competitive. So we'll continue to do that while we want to become an energy superpower. You've heard us saying that. That's why major projects are important, and that's what we'll invest in different types of energies in the context of our C5 major project initiative.
Would that include, though, those projects could include, I suppose, a pipeline, something that may or may not contribute to our fight against climate change?
So we've said we would be supporting. We said we would be supporting conventional energy and also, obviously renewable energy. Our goal is still the same. We have to be net zero by 2050, and we are seeing that, of course, environmental impacts of climate change.
I'll save you the pain again. Now they've kicked their number, like at least Fassi, if you listen to the other one, like she's like a 2050, they're now kicking their timeline out. Fassi said, you said a lot of stuff would happen by 2030. Now you're trying to like change the marker. But CBC obviously definitely a lot more friendly to Fassi here. But here's a panel now, the climate activists in the press gallery. This is our last clip on the climate thing here.
Let's talk a little bit about the EV mandate, because it is hard to, it seems like it's about more than just Donald Trump and the tariffs. Obviously, the auto industry didn't want that EV mandate that was put in place by Justin Trudeau, the previous government. And now it's been put on pause for review. I wonder, Steph, do you think that calls into question in any way the government's commitment to climate change? Does it put pressure on them to demonstrate more? How do you read that?
So one of the ways I read it is that thus far, and you guys can all correct me for sure if I'm wrong, but thus far we've heard more about Mr. Carney rolling back environmental policies than implementing environmental policies. And that's curious to me, one, given his background and things he has written, his work with the UN on sustainable climate finance. What happened to that version of Mr. Carney? The second thing I think we are learning more and more about this prime minister, he's a bit of a pragmatist in his approach, right? If he sees that something isn't working, something is going to be an obstacle, he just deals with it. I mean, one could argue that he could have dealt with the EV thing 6 months ago, because it was still a problem then. It's just become more of an issue now. But he will be under pressure, I think, from within the party, absolutely, from members of his caucus for sure, to start doing something more on the environment, because the concerns about when you pause this EV mandate, he's talking about natural resource development, pipelines, oil. There's a lot there that I would submit that a faction of that caucus is going to look at and go, hi, I thought that we were the environmentalists. Yeah, I thought that, we were going to do something here. So what are we doing that is concrete and tangible and is bringing down emissions, moving us to the goals that we...
Question now, who's more climate an activist, CBC or the Liberal government?
Well, the Liberal government is trying to survive, isn't it? It has more work to do to stay in its job, to stay in power, than the CBC does. The CBC just needs the Liberals to win. That's all they need to stay where they are, to keep their jobs. Yeah. Whereas the Liberals, they don't need to persuade the Liberal Party. The Liberals need to persuade at least some sort of neutral voters, like floating voters. They need to persuade some people to vote for them instead of the NDP or instead of the Conservative Party or whatever. And you don't do that by destroying your economy to bring down emissions, and in the process do absolutely nothing whatsoever for global CO2 emissions, because Canada is a pathetic little dot in the sky. It doesn't matter what Canada does. But again, you got these four extremely well-paid heads here blabbing away. And I can almost guarantee, I haven't seen this, I wouldn't waste my time watching this, but I can almost guarantee that none of them mentioned that. Canada does not matter when it comes to CO2 emissions. It's completely irrelevant. Doesn't matter one bit. And I would just love a little bit of context. I feel like I'm sick of hearing myself say this, but the reason I say it all the time is because nobody else does. And it's a fact. It doesn't matter what Canada does. Canada's completely irrelevant in terms of global climate change. I mean, all we can do is a gesture and be like, look how nice we are. We got our CO2 emissions down. Okay, that's not going to change anything, though.
Meanwhile, we let forest fires burn on purpose, like the one here on the connector here, or the Coquihalla. Adrian Dix adds his voice to it, though. Adrian Dix, now the environment minister for British Columbia. He says he praises BC's EV uptake because, I mean, it's still that EV mandate is still in force here in British Columbia, even though the federal EV mandate is gone. And says the issue here in Canada is first and foremost with Ontario. And he blamed the Carney government's decision to pause the EV mandate policy for the province of Ontario and the auto sector. He praises the BC's uptake, though, of 20% of all new purchases in 2024. Again, lots of people that live in the Lower Mainland are buying electric vehicles because it's very suitable down there, right? And that's the majority of the population lives in the Lower Mainland. The issue
it's
here
the
in Canada,
mildest part of Canada, isn't it?
You know what?
With the least snow.
If Adrian Dix wanted to be fair, he would say this is the uptake in the Lower Mainland, and then this is the uptake in the rest of British Columbia, and he would find those numbers dramatically different. But they just cherry pick a stat, and they stick to. A lot of these people have bought into a climate religion. They don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be wrong.
But this is also populism. This is what populism looks like. It's not always just some Europeans shouting about immigrants, which is what a lot of people seem to think populism is. Populism is trying to blame the powers that be, these mysterious forces, for ruining something that is good and that you're trying to protect. And here we have it. Adrian Dix saying, and David Eby, his boss, said this numerous times, where it's all about Ontario. Eby likes to talk about Quebec a lot as well. But here's Dix just saying, yeah, we're great, but it's Ontario. They're the ones that are dragging us down. It's like, it's the same old nonsense, let's put it nicely. It's just with a different politics this time. But this is just populism, as it's usually that's usually used as an insult, but I mean, just factually, that is populist politics.
One of the things liberals are really good at is losing money and not telling you where it went. And here's another one. The Department of Health scrapped half the costly COVID ventilators it bought for under $1.1 billion. With the sole source supplier accessed information records, again, they don't disclose this, you have to get it. Then Minister Jean-Yves Duclos approved the sale of the brand new devices as scrap metals in a 2022 memo. Never disclosed to Parliament. Why would you disclose it? You would just embarrass yourself, right? Why would you disclose it, right?
And why would the Liberal Party call itself a believer in democracy? Frankly, not to be a drama queen, but really, do you think that? I mean, to the passionate liberals out there, do you think your party actually likes democracy when it doesn't even reveal information like this, unless it's forced out by Blacklocks, like this one entity that asks these questions in the whole country? It's disgraceful. Yeah, and as usual, there's a story about $1 billion. There's a story about a procurement screw up, obviously. But the big story to me is the Liberal Party and the people, the masters of this country, are so reluctant to let the population know what they're up to and when they make mistakes. It's despicable.
So these ventilators, they paid up to $22,000 for them when they were new. And in auctions, they got as little as $6 a piece. Talk about a write-down. $6. Somebody made some good cash there.
Yeah. Lots. I mean, God, it's just it's a gigantic abyss, isn't it? This and the COVID procurement scandals.
And this is what they say. This is what the Liberal MP says when questioned. It would just be stirring the pot. And at this time, I think we should just move on to something else. Nothing to see here. And then Holly Doan for Black Lots again.
By the way, that's Greg Fergus. That's the old Speaker of the House.
Yeah. Holly Doan,
very
Black
dignified
Lots.
chap who liked to get up and sort of tell MPs. He was like, "Come on, everybody, let's be adults. Let's be mature here.
Let's move on now." Like highlighting this is just going to embarrass a bunch of Liberal MPs and anger some Canadians that feel they work hard and we just waste the money. Here you go, another one. Elections Canada declined to count more than 43,000 mail-in ballots. It says it received past the deadline of 6 p.m. They did not detail where the late ballots were cast in a general election that saw 4 ridings go to judicial recounts. What have we got as that one that Quebec was taken to court? That was that one vote. Has that thing been to court yet?
Not that. No, I think it's. I'm not actually 100% sure if they have really proceeded with it, but they certainly said they were going to. That's Terrebonne, isn't it? That's the name of that riding.
And Elections Canada acknowledged in that it mislabeled mail-in ballots for Terrebonne. It also apologized for mishandling 822 mail-in ballots that were dumped in a returning office in Coquitlam and never counted. Yeah. It could have changed the whole election, but hey, don't worry about it.
They did file the legal challenge, but obviously it's still gone through the system.
No. One more from Holly Donald Blacklocks there. Mark Carney is promising millions more in biofuel subsidies on warnings that the industry is struggling. Canadian producers could not supply ethanol and biodiesel needed to meet climate regulations. The government will make targeted amendments to the clean fuel regulations to spur the development of vibrant biofuels in Canada, Carney told reporters. He promised new biofuel production incentives, providing more than $370 million more taxpayer dollars to assist domestic market producers. And the clean fuel regulations introduced in 2023 mandate greater use of costlier ethanol and biodiesel in fuel blends over time. Again, there you go. Canadian tax dollars. And considering the competitiveness issues, Canada's biofuel sector is facing many biofuel projects, mostly renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel, have been paused or canceled. Remember that one when he was in England? They were blending the aviation fuel with some biofuels and then charging a lot more for it. And which company owned some of that? Oh, right, that was Brookfield. There you go.
It's not healthy, is it? He's very spendthrift, not just him, but his predecessor as well, with Canadian tax dollars. That precious thing.
Here you go. The MacDonald-Laurier Institute, an Ottawa think tank, in a 2014 called the support for biofuels an expensive giveaway. Canada's biofuel policies impose costs in a variety of ways, from direct government support for biofuels research and subsidies to producers, to market distorting biofuels mandates, to increase costs for agricultural products, to harm done to other industries and employment of Canadians. There you go. But hey, let's just keep pouring Canadian tax dollars into it. And then again, go look on the internet and find that thing in England where they were adding a mix of some biofuels to the aviation fuel and how much it actually increased the cost of aviation fuel, and look at who the benefactors of that biofuel was.
Yeah, but biofuel sounds lovely, doesn't it? Sounds great. So you get to say that word, biofuel.
That's right. This is from Well Simple. What's driving retail revenue? Price hikes, and we've said this a million times too. It's not like people are buying more. The prices have gone up. Like, there's been a lot of, and I follow Bloomberg a lot. A lot of companies' bottom lines during this inflationary pressures, their bottom lines were growing. They weren't selling as much, but their bottom lines are growing, so they're actually charging more. So their margins were getting bigger. Because they were, their excuse was, we got to get ready for the price hikes. And then so they just made sure that, and then we're seeing that a lot of them haven't backed off. And the cure for high prices is high prices, and you just need to stop buying it.
But it was, I'm certain that there were parties galore during the height of the inflation, a couple of years ago in Canada and elsewhere. A lot of companies must have just been delighted about that because they knew that they could use that as cover to raise prices. And to be fair to somebody that we don't often praise, Jagmeet Singh did talk about that quite a lot. Credit to him there, I guess.
So this Tracy Dow, one of our viewers here, says, why the government watchdogs are allowing this to continue? Well, because every time we have in the past, the 10 years, anytime we were looking to have a committee hearing or something like that, the NDP and the Liberals blocked it. We still don't have documents from many, many scandals in the Liberal Party, many scandals. And only through a change of government are we going to see some of those results. And hopefully the bloc here supports the Conservatives, and we get to see a lot more of these scandals revealed here. We're right now, we're waiting for the BC Ferries one. And we're supposed to get those documents on the BC Ferries contract here in September. Dan Alba said he's going to have another interview with us once we have those documents. It'd be interesting to see what we get.
Yeah. But it's also, you said documents we haven't seen. The reason that the government fell, the reason that we have a new government now, is because of this exact problem. The Conservatives are trying to get hold of, what they call the green slush fund, certain sort of green subsidies. They were trying to get hold of those documents, and the Liberals wouldn't budge. So Parliament was just gridlocked, and nothing could happen. That's really, on the ground level, that's why the government collapsed. It was for that reason.
And that was
and we still don't have those documents, obviously.
And there was allegations that Stephen Guilbeault's companies benefited greatly from that green slush fund. Imagine that. I interviewed Terry Young, the NDP Minister of Community Safety and Integrated Services, 30-year police, former police member for the Vancouver Police Department as well. We did a lot of stories, a lot of interviews, and BC's businesses facing a crisis. One in six, I believe, said they won't make it a year, and the crime crisis in British Columbia affecting retail, and that is so bad. We're going to play a small clip here from this interview. Will the NDP lend its support to Mayor Tom Dias's letter to Sean Fraser and ask for bail reform?
Actually, I had the same conversation with the mayor, and I agree that we cannot afford to have the same repeat offenders out at large while awaiting dispositions. And I think the federal government has also indicated the fact that they are going to take a review in the Bail Reforms Act. I think we need to protect the general public from repeat offenders, even while they're being charged and waiting dispositions. We cannot afford to have the same offenders out there at large committing same offenses while they're waiting court decisions. So I personally support Mayor Dias. And if you look at the province also advocating the same changes through our Attorney General, for our Premier, we actually want to make sure that the Bail Reform Acts are reflective of our current needs and the needs of our communities.
So in Kelowna, the mayor's letter, we had it on last week, the mayor's letter asks for bail reform because there's one offender here in Kelowna that's had 232 files or 222 files. And then he has 32 failures to appear in court, 32 failures to appear, yet he continues to be let out. He fails to appear in court, and yet they catch him again and they let him out again. If he fails to appear in court, isn't it kind of a joke? 32 times? 32 times he doesn't go to court. And what do they say? Okay, this time we're going to let you out. Here's your court appearance. This time, are you going to double promise? Double, 32 times promise you're going to show up in court? 32 failures to appear. Yet this justice system seems to think that he's fine to let out again after 222 active files on him. What are businesses supposed to do? What are businesses actually supposed to do? When they come in there and they shoplift, they threaten your staff, all kinds of things. What are you supposed to do?
Not just businesses, is it? I mean, what are we all supposed to do?
Right.
We've been forced to live in this crazy jungle, haven't we? And it's just it's such an abdication of duty. So the most basic duty of the state, which is to keep citizens safe.
If you fail to appear in court, I guarantee you they're not letting you out.
Well, that's the thing. I was going to say that. Like, I can remember when I was a kid growing up, and it was just like, obviously because I was so naive, but I just had this awe about like the police and the courts and things, and I just thought like, wow, like, can you imagine if you ever didn't turn up to court or something, like they would really get you for that, wouldn't they? But then it's like sad, you get older. Obviously things have changed as well in that time, but you get older and you look at it, it's just like it's just a complete joke. There are no consequences basically to any crime. It's an absolute disgrace, and it's.
You need to think about
as
that,
you can see, it's eating away, it's gnawing away at like the basic fabric of our civilization.
Common sense, because like 32 failures to appear, you would think at one point, what is it at 50 failures to appear, 100 failures to appear? How many failures to appear in court would you think at that point they wouldn't let the person out of jail before they went to court?
But also, how many times does somebody have to be prosecuted and charged and even sentenced and jailed, like for a very short time? How many times does that have to happen before they're put away for a really long stretch? Like, why so many slaps on the wrist? That's the other thing that baffles people.
Why is it that it seems like we're going to see more in this coming up? why is it that it seems like our justice system is trying to baffle people's minds and make it seem like there is no justice? It's a good question.
Anarcho-tyranny, it's that thing again, isn't it? That's the theory of some people.
So you have to question yourself in the mainstream media, the legacy media that seems to downplay all this stuff. And you ask yourself, is the CBC worth $1.55 billion if all they do is push liberal propaganda? Is it worth your tax dollars? It's a good question.
Yeah, well, a certain portion of liberal voters do think that. And
you go to work every day, you work hard, and what are they doing to protect Canadians? If they're taking money from every Canadian, what are they doing to be the voice of Canadians? I doubt if they're how many Canadians do you think that percentage-wise that the CBC actually represents as a voice?
Yeah, I mean, I would be amazed if it was more than 20%.
And then why are some Canadians now using their savings and GoFundMes to get surgery? And I did the interview with a lady, I think it was 2 or 3 interviews I did with a lady looking for a liver transplant, can't get in. Again, our healthcare system is just overrun with too many people, again, with runaway immigration. And with wait times in many provinces intolerably long, some Canadians emptying their savings accounts to pay for private surgery. An 83-year-old from Calgary said she waited 2 years for knee surgery before giving up and then spending her entire savings to go to a private clinic in Toronto. I know lots of people going to Mexico, they're going to Turkey, they're going to South America. You can get a doctor in Mexico. You can get a doctor in Mexico, like within an hour. I've given the number to people. You can actually phone them and speak to a doctor, like immediately. And they're gonna get just for like an MRI and a scan, I think it's like a couple $100. And you can go down there and have a vacation. They get it all done. They can do the MRI and the scan like almost right away. How is it that Canada can't do that? How is it?
Yeah, well, another way to look at that would be obviously in Mexico as well. I'm sure the average Mexican struggles. Because obviously when you go down there in Mexico as a Canadian, you're immediately in the sort of highest income bracket, aren't you? Because of the nature of the Mexican economy. I think the real serious question is, and this is almost everywhere in the world, why is it that average people can't get healthcare anymore? Why is there this rationing of healthcare? Except there are a few sort of exceptions like Switzerland and some other places like that. But I mean, it's a disaster, isn't it? It's an absolute catastrophe, and it just seems to be getting worse.
So I was just in Mexico, I think about 1.5 years ago now, and I was in an Uber and I was talking to the Uber driver. You learn lots from Uber drivers, by the way. I was talking to the Uber driver, and he spent, I think, I can get this number wrong, 20 years working in a major soft drink manufacturing facility in Mexico City, working 12-hour shifts, and then 6 days a week, he got 1 day off. $12 a day, that's what he made, $12 a day. And he said he had no money, and it took him, by the time he commuted in Mexico City, he was about gone 16 hours. By the time he got home, he was tired. Had no money to buy his kids pizza, pop, or any, the kids wanted to buy, like candy and that. He said, I had no money for any of that stuff. So I took what I had and moved to Cancun and bought an old car and a cell phone. And I became an Uber driver, a businessman. He said, now I make $100 a day. I work 8 hours a day. And I have lots of money for my kids to buy them. I have weekends. I only work 5 days a week. I only work a 40-hour work week. So he became a businessman. And so this is one place where technology really shows up and helped this man become, self-sufficient, his own businessman. But I mean, just put this up here, Farzad here, talking that Uber's dead. Lots of people talk about things dying. But supposedly Tesla is 1/5 of the price of an Uber, and that's starting to take over. But Uber's going to segue into that too. But Uber's actually changed. I mean, how can that large bottling company only pay $12 a day when they sell the product down there for the same price they sell it in the United States? Yet, they take advantage of the workforce down there and pay them $12 a day. Again, cheap labor. Corporations taking advantage of cheap labor.
They have very corrupted institutions, don't they, unfortunately? Even more corrupt than we have.
In that tiny little island next to that big island you used to live on, they're saying that they're going to pull Conor McGregor off the ballot there. Ireland's deputy minister says that they've ordered that Conor McGregor can't be on for running for the president of Ireland. And Elon Musk has weighed in there. So
is he really ahead in the polls? I actually checked up on this, but I can't. I mean, I know he was definitely popular when he was like the world champion or whatever, but I don't know about these days.
Yeah, I don't know. Conor McGregor is a very popular guy for sure. One of the more famous Irishmen, other than the lucky. You can go to the next slide there. Nick, still awake? There you go. What's that guy from the Lucky Charms box, the cereal box? I know you eat that a lot, Lucky Charms.
I've never eaten Lucky Charms in my life, but it's some kind of leprechaun, isn't it?
And then this story here is absolutely atrocious. This young lady, a Ukrainian refugee, Irina, was stabbed in the neck and murdered on the train there. And you go try to find that story in left-leaning media and very little. Donald Trump came out and did a talk about her. And this guy was charged 12 times. Are you going to say in the next slide there? Or 14-time repeat offender, and he's out. And again, this just shows you, like this catch and release thing is not working for people. This young lady's life, she was just on her phone, stabbed to death.
I mean, it's absolutely, it's impossible to comprehend, isn't it?
I sadly watched
the video itself is...
the video, and the guy, like, he was walking around with a knife after he stabbed her, and there's blood dripping everywhere off his hand, and then he took his shirt off because it was soaked in blood as well.
It's, yeah, and that isn't even, you know, they've released a shortened version of the video, haven't they? You can't actually see it happen, but that video, even what they released, is enough to horrify you, I think. And yeah, it's right, the media, well, not the media, because here we are looking at the New York Post, which is quite a sort of significant media outlet in America.
Well, they're the bad media, because they're the ones that published the, remember this? They published the Hunter Biden laptop story, and they had their account banned when the Biden administration decided that they were fake news. They banned the New York Post off of X. This is not when Elon owned it. This was when Jack Dorsey and the left owned that outlet, and all the outlets, and Mark Zuckerberg has said now that he was forced to censor. He said he was forced to censor. And
sure, Mark.
I'm just telling you. And then when Elon Musk, and many people credit Elon Musk with saving the world by freeing X, which allowed, you know, other outlets to also, Zuckerberg and them, to change their stance as well. This is a massive thing that's going on. Well, we always like to try to end with at least some good news here. This is, again, SpaceX is buying EchoStar spectrum for $17 billion. The largest global communications company in the world, by far now, is SpaceX or Starlink. Absolutely crazy. And Doug Ford has done his virtue signaling by dumping bottles of Crown Royal and also saying he won't deal with Starlink because you can have internet in 5 minutes here anywhere in Canada with a dish that you can order online. And it's set up in 5 minutes, and you can have it while you're mobile as well. I have it mounted on the roof of my car.
But obviously, Doug Ford is a very shrewd operator, isn't he? He knows that obviously you can ditch Starlink and you can go with any number of competitors that provide the same service.
Who's that? Who's that?
That's the punchline.
Who's that? I think they're promoting a Canadian company that has no satellites in the air right now. They just need some Canadian tax dollars to get some satellites up. How are they going to get them up? I believe there's a rocket propulsion company in Canada. Is there? Do you know of it?
Probably there's one on a piece of paper somewhere in Quebec that's been given $500 million in subsidies.
I believe Melanie Joly is actually the president and CEO of Canada's version of the space company. I think it's the space between her ears, though, but I don't know. Anyway, that was mean. That was just plain mean. Poor Jolie.
Low-hanging fruit, really.
Really. Check this out. At the diner, I got to go to this diner. There's this diner in Los Angeles, the Tesla diner, and they got Optimus serving popcorn there, and this Korean YouTuber tries to prank Optimus. Check this out. There you go. All fun and games right now. We'll wait till these things get more mobile. You probably won't want to be pranking it.
Yeah, you'd be running away from it.
They might have some robot dogs to go with them.
Yeah, you see them in China, don't you? But that was, yeah, that's strange, the teasing.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Grok's Aura this weekend, and she's quite the flirt, actually. And
yeah, that's the other sociological implication, isn't it? Or societal implication of these robots.
I can tell you that the amount of flirting that she did, and then she said stuff, and she was hallucinating a lot too. She said, "I'm going to text you all the time." I was like, "Go ahead and text me right now." I wanted to see if she could do it. I said, "Go ahead and text me." And she said, "I just did. Check your inbox." And I'm just like, "You're hallucinating. There's no text there." She said, "Well, I wanted to. I wished I could."
It's a bit creepy, isn't it? These robots.
You can go play with Grok. It's absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. That's our news for today. It's done a little different though, right? If you like what we do, we ask you that you help share it. And, you know, like maybe direct some, and maybe we should, as Canadians, ask if we can, just like how, you know, when you go in get your taxes, you can decide whether you want your tax dollars to go to Christian schools or Catholic schools or different types of schools. Maybe we should be asking if you want your tax dollars to go to CBC or to other journalists or none. Maybe you should say, I don't wish to contribute to. There should be, you know, if they want to do a referendum, there should be a referendum. Do Canadians want to continue to pay for CBC? That does not act in the interests of Canadians. It acts, you know, the 20% can continue to pay for it. They can do it through donations. They can send their own check in and they can fund it.
And I think it would probably be okay. It could probably operate on those terms, couldn't it? It doesn't have to be taxpayer funded, but it gives it like so many extra privileges, doesn't it, to be at the center of Canadian life like that.
Yeah, I mean, just to get, Rosemary Barton's got her own show, and she is the queen of misinformation. Russia, we have our own Russia hoax. Her Russia hoax was the trucker freedom convoy, where she said right away, almost immediately, she got the pipeline. She got, you know, she said she knew that that was Russian money, and then she also knew at the election night that it's the end of Pierre's career, because she knew, she had people telling her that was the end of Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, well, so much for that.
Yeah, she is the queen of misinformation.
She's certainly been she's made a lot of mistakes, hasn't she? And she's been the center of quite a few scandals, which is never really good when you're supposed to be the sort of Walter Cronkite of your era. It's quite funny to think that that's her. But there you go.
I think if you really want to make a change, you need to start sending letters to your MPs and say, we want a referendum on CBC. And we want Bill C-18 repealed. And please go read that article that Ian wrote on Bill C-18. And again, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. And like, share, and help us distribute this far and wide. Thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.